Hello and welcome everybody, and this is our second attempt to for me to interview the wonderful Melinda Koss, who we tried on Instagram the other day with internet failure. We decided that to abandon that and try Zoom. So thank you, Melinda, for giving me your time and coming back today.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's kind of like weird because now I'm not looking at you, I'm looking over there. So forgive us if we're not looking at any one of you. I'm going to go right back to the beginning and ask you questions that I had asked you the other day, because we'll have a lot of new people that are listening to us. And I found you on a Facebook group. We're going to talk about it a bit later. You just produced your 31st book, but
first book.
31st.
Yeah.
But you're speaking.
Yeah, 31st book. Yeah.
31st book, which is pretty amazing. But I want to reel back to when it all started. So tell me. I mean, I know that your first business was a knitwear, but tell us right back at the beginning how you got into that. At what age were you? What did you do? Did you go to university? What happened?
Okay. All right. So I left school at 14. And with no qualifications, and I got married soon after, and I was married for about 4 years, and I had 3 children. And then
I've got to interrupt you. Were you allowed to leave school at 14?
Yes, you were then. You were, absolutely. Okay.
So how old are you?
I must admit, actually, I did have qualifications. I got 4 O level. There were O levels in those days. I got 4 O levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So. Hang on, but you got O levels at 14?
Yeah.
My goodness.
Not very good ones, but I got 4 O levels. Yeah. And then, so I had 3 children. I got twins and another one. I had those in an 18-month period. And then I left my husband for whatever reason. And I had to find a way of earning a living.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to stop you there. You were now what, 16 or 17?
No. I married. There was a bit in between. I left school. I trained as a window dresser. I did showroom work. I did little bits of secretarial work. I mean,
okay.
All the little bits you do from my sort of generation and group before you get married.
Okay.
The target was to get married. So I got married, which really wasn't for me. I should not have got married. Then I got a divorce, and then I found myself in a situation where I had these 3 children to support, with absolutely no. I mean, to me, if your bank balance was empty when your checkbook had run out. I had just no knowledge about money or anything like that. So I made a list of what I was able to do, and I could knit and I could write funny letters. And and I built 3 businesses on the back of that, actually. But as we were saying the other day, I think you either, in that situation, you either sink or swim. And I'm a swimmer. And also I think, honestly, if you have nothing to lose, it's much easier. It's much easier to move ahead. So this is a mindset thing. So you can either let something floor you, and you can talk about how bad everything and how badly off you are, and that goes for any situation really, or you can just get up and take action.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I wrote to a number of people. I was in what actually happened. So I was in Camden. No, I know what happened. My son came home from school one day and asked me if I could make him a jumper that squeaked. And I came up with this idea for making a jumper with a teddy bear on the front and a squeaker in the inside pocket, and you press the teddy bear and it squeaked. And I could basically knit, and that was about it. So I went to Camden Lock, and I found people machine knitters, asked for advice, and they helped me make my prototypes. And I sent them off to the Daily Express, and they did a half-page spread offering the knitwear for sale. So
that's a lot of chutzpah for a young girl to send off her knits to a newspaper.
I think my approach in life has always been that you start at the top, and if you get rejected, you work down. So, I started with a major national newspaper and I hit it lucky. And I've done that 2 or 3 times in my life. And I think the secret there is that you mustn't take rejection on a business level personally. Because I think a lot of people don't do that stuff, don't reach out, don't ask the right questions to the right people because they fear the rejection. And to me, if they reject me, I'll go to someone else. So,
did you get rejected? I mean,
of course I have been rejected plenty of times in my life. It doesn't always work out, but in the majority of cases, I've been very fortunate, and things have worked out. So, I had these jumpers in the Daily Express, and I was selling the knitwear by mail order. And then I was in Islington one day in a little shop, hand knit shop, and got chatting to the owner, and she had a council lease on this shop with a flat above, and she wanted to keep the flat and get rid of the shop. And she was paying about £20 a week for the whole thing. I think this was crazy. So I took over the shop from her. I eventually took over the whole building from her. And I started a designer knit company where other designers would bring their single samples, things that they'd made, on sale or return, and I would sell them in the shop. And then I opened a second shop in Chiltern Street in London.
Wow.
And then one day, one of the Women's Mag editors came into the shop and said, could you do some patterns for us? And I thought, well, this can't be difficult.
What were your shops called, Melinda? What were they called?
Well, the one in Islington was called 1 Copenhagen Street, and the one in the West End was Melinda Koss. So anyway, to cut a very long story short, I wrote a load of books on knitting and then embroidery. And I was showing with the British Designer Show. So I got famous at knitting.
Yeah.
Which is, I got famous at knitting. And then I spent the next few years simply writing 3 how-to books a year. That was how and also selling this knitwear all over the place. And then someone from Disney came into the shop and wanted me to make him a Disney sweater. And I knew that it was copyright. This is how the book started. I knew that I couldn't just do that. And I said, well, I can't because I need a license to do that. And he said, well, I publish books for Disney. And I said, well, why don't I write you the Disney Book of Knitting?
Excellent.
And about 3 days later, I was down in Devon signing a contract to do that book. That was my first book. So again, wow. I think it's always a matter of walking around with your antennae up. So I'm an opportunist.
Yeah.
Not everything works out, but I am always aware of opportunities that are in the air. And that's really how I've lived my life.
And I think it's also about creating your own luck as well, isn't it? People say you're lucky. I mean, obviously that some people do get lucky breaks, right place, right time, but you create your own luck. Don't you think? Yeah. Also by making sure you're putting yourself out there, by being open and looking for those opportunities. So you do create your own luck.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, to a large extent. But often opportunities are all around us. We just don't recognize them or take action on them.
Mm. That's true. Because we're scared, perhaps. We're scared of rejection or fear or what have you. And
it's all about self-belief. Everything that you do is about self-belief. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And either way, you're going to be right.
Yes.
It just I mean, that's what probably one of the key lessons experience has taught me.
Yeah. So tell us now. Carry on with your journey here. You had all these books are now coming out. You were the knitwear queen.
I was the knitwear queen. And then I was approached by one of the major spinners, the yarns, people that sold knitting yarns, saying to me, look, you're getting all your designs in the magazines. Why don't we take you on as a PR consultant and you place you get designs done in our walls and get them in the magazines. And I ended up with I got their PR contract, which was a lot of money for me in those days. And really did for them what I did for myself. So again, it was about building relationships with journalists, falling over backwards to do the right, to do what they wanted or come up with offers for them. So then I shifted into PR, and then I got PR accounts with some of the major magazines, specialist craft magazines. So that was another. Look, I'm a project person. I get bored very easily, and I love a challenge, and I love to see if I can make something work. So anyway, so I did that. And then in that guise, I was thinking of how we could promote British embroidery in a big way. And I picked up that in the States, every year at the White House, they have Christmas trees, and they invite craftspeople to make ornaments for the Christmas trees. And then they have a big reception, and it's heavily publicized. And I thought, well, I wonder how I could do that in the UK. And where is there a prominent Christmas tree? And I thought, well, the Queen has a Christmas tree every year at Buckingham Palace when she does her speech. So I wrote to the Queen and said, could I organize a competition and get people to make ornaments for your Christmas tree? And her press secretary got back to me within a week and said, what a lovely idea, do it.
Wow. Did that year, presumably you submitted one as well?
Yes. Yes.
And did you see it hanging when she did her speech?
I had to organize 3 receptions at Buckingham Palace. I got a celebrity charity involved. We had a competition. We had an auction. Philips ran an auction for us to auction the ornaments off for charity. And I actually physically had to dress the tree. I was there up a ladder putting all these ornaments. So we had 3 receptions at Buckingham Palace, at which time we met the whole royal family. It was a bit like being in Spitting Image. But you see, again, so it wasn't the event. It was I recognized that having made that happen was a huge feather in my cap. And
absolutely.
And I made a lot of connections through that. Businessmen that were involved with the Society of Stars, who I pulled on board, celebrities. So when I decided a little bit later to start my soap making business, they were all behind me, ready to back me, because they'd seen that I meant business and that I could make things happen. So again, it's how you demonstrate your ability much rather than what you're actually creating.
Of course. But you do strike me as somebody that was extremely confident. And this is all as a single mom with 3 young kids. That's something that, I'm always thinking. I mean, I'm a single mom of when she's not a kid anymore. She's about to turn 19 next week. But, and I run my business on my own, and I very much get overwhelmed with what I do. And I'm thinking, looking at you, and you did all of that, and with the Queen, with 3 children. I mean, that's incredible. And I think that's something that's, you were managing, there's a lot of things going on that you seem to be managing extremely well. What do you think your secret was?
To be absolutely honest, I'm not maternal. I am not a particularly good mother. And I had twins, which was helpful because they were very close in age, but I did have a lot of family support. So my mother was very close to my children. They'd probably say that she was closer than me. I have a great relationship with my kids now. But for me, the hardest part of my life at that time was my relationships with my children. Right. And it was almost as if I was driven with the work thing so that I didn't have to deal with that. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yes, you can do this. This is easy. Something has to give at some point. But
do you have any regrets about that?
I couldn't have done anything differently. I'm absolutely sure of that, because it's the person I am. And I think a lot of people are driven into motherhood with great expectations of this sudden thing that's going to envelope you. And And I found it extremely difficult. Extremely difficult.
But I mean, you know what? They were the best dressed kids at school with their Disney jumpers. So that didn't really matter, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
So what took you from knitwear into soap?
Well, I was writing books at that time, and I was looking for interesting craft things to write about. And I was in Australia, and I was at a market, and I saw all this handmade soap being sold. And I had what I call a ding moment. And I thought, why isn't anyone doing this in the UK? Because I'd been involved with women and craft and people making things at home. And this seemed to me a perfect thing that people could actually do for themselves at home. And when I got back to the UK, I found that there were loads and loads of small, in the US, of sort of satellite companies, home-based companies making soap. But nobody was doing it in Europe because the legislation was quite stringent. It fell under European cosmetic legislation. So you can't just make soap and sell it. And in fact, it's got a lot harder. There's a whole procedure and paraphernalia that you've got to go through to be legal. But anyway, I persuaded my publishers to let me write a book on it. I just finished The Queen's Christmas Tree. I didn't know, I was looking for something new to do. A friend of mine came up to Wales. I was living in Wales at that time, and came up to Wales and said, look, I'll make the soap, you do the business side. Let's do this. Because suddenly when the book came out, everybody wanted to buy the soap. And I hadn't done it with the intention of setting up a soap business. And then I thought to myself, we did it from home for a year. And I thought to myself, we worked so hard, all the hours under the sun. It looked like we turned over a fair bit of money. We'd got some major stores buying from us, but I could have earned more as a cleaner if you looked at the hourly rate. And my house was, every surface was covered in soap. And I thought at that time, well, I'm either going to go big or I'm going to go home with this. I'm not going to do this again. I've done it with knitwear. You know, I'm all up for a challenge of building a big business, but I don't want to build another craft home-based business. So I went back to some of the guys that I'd met during the Queen's Christmas Tree thing. And it was at the time when the first wave of internet stuff had just crashed. A lot of them had lost a lot of money.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, a lot of them had lost a lot of money. And here I was offering them something they understood, that was real, that got used up, so they could see the commercial potential. And they backed me to take on a factory and to create soap with the intention of selling to the big stores. That was, a few people by that time, because of my book, that were doing the sort of crafty route. But I wanted, the natural thing was just coming in at that time. And the supermarkets and the big stores wanted to sell this product, but there was nobody that could actually make it for them using the traditional techniques. So I set up a factory in Wales, and within 18 months, we were in all the supermarket chains, plus Harrods and Harvey Nick. I mean, we were everywhere.
And what was your brand called?
It was called the Handmade Soap Company at that time.
Yeah.
And then we hit an issue. In year 4, I signed up to do it for 5 years. It was a 5-year exit plan, because I knew I wouldn't be able to do it for any longer than that. And I really had to create all the equipment, you know, the whole thing. It was about taking a home craft and scaling it massively. So it was a huge challenge. And then we hit a problem because Safeways, I don't know if you remember the Safeways, who was our biggest customer, sold out to Morrison's. And we were going to lose about 27% of our business at that point. And also, I wasn't that well. I'd had undiagnosed thyroid issues. I was really tired. I was running out of steam. So I had the choice of either completely, I could see the whole thing, you know, once you lose one supermarket chain, you're going to lose another one. I could just feel this. I didn't like the rumblings. So I sold the company. and I moved to France.
Which is
Everyone.
great for us,
Yeah.
because here you are in
Here
my
I am.
world.
Yeah.
But did you, I mean, I often think, you know, we know that in the business world there's a lot of sexism, isn't there? And women have always struggled to kind of be taken sort of seriously, often with in boards of investors. Do you think because it was a craft business that actually, you know, being a woman actually was very helpful, or do you think that, well, it doesn't matter because you got a pair of balls yourself anyway, so you know no one was going to overlook you?
To me, it wasn't a craft business, so there's nothing deeply feminine about the way that I would negotiate a business deal. And I know that, you know, women want to do business like a woman. I'm all for that. But to be perfectly honest, I have never taken on board, I'm not a feminist particularly, I have never understood why any woman would consider that she was at a disadvantage. I mean, to me, being a woman is a huge advantage because you have a soft side that you can use, you have a tough side that you can use, you can multitask.
Yeah.
And I won't accept, I won't accept chauvinism. So I'm quite happy to walk into a bank, you know, a bank wanting a loan. But the point is that I know what they want to see from me. So it's about numbers. It's not about my passion for my soap. It's about, you know, a bank is an outfit that will invest in you because they're going to see a financial return. And yes, they want to see that you're dedicated to your business or that you're passionate about what you do. But what they're much more interested in is, who are you going to sell to? What are you going to turn over? How are you going to do that? When's the money coming back?
That's right. Exit plans.
Absolutely. And I think that way. So you kind of need to departmentalize your passion for what you're doing with the hard reality of commerce.
Absolutely.
A business is not a business, no matter how you go into it wanting to do good. And, you know, I work with green, these days I'm a business consultant with green entrepreneurs. And I get why they go into this. You know, lots of corporate women get into green biocosmetics because they want to do good in the world. And I absolutely salute that. But that alone will not build your business. What builds your business is business savvy. So I'm always slightly aghast when I hear this sort of, oh, but, you know, I'm a woman or I'm a single parent and I therefore can't get, you know, won't get supported. Because if you've shown that you can survive those situations, you've shown enormous skill.
Absolutely.
Which brings me to where I am now, because the one thing through all these businesses, the one thing that I learned of the most value is that your journey is more important than your destination, and it's more valuable to you financially. So if you have been had a career, you know, I could coach people that were bringing up 3 under 2s. You know, that experience and how I did that is actually a coaching program. And what I did was I did a coaching program myself on a whim, and discovered actually that I could market my journey and make a lot more money than I did in any of my businesses.
And is that what's brought you to A, being a business coach, and B, your first book?
Well, yeah. I mean, being a business coach to me is wonderful because I'm 72 now. I've been coaching on skincare entrepreneurs now for 15, 20 years at different levels. And for me, it's amazing because I can use, they'll come to me with a concept, without a concept, with a collection of products, with this dream, whatever. And I can use all my creativity and business know-how to help them, but they've got to run it, not me.
Of course, yes, so, absolutely.
And I can be doing that with 5 or 6 different businesses. And that keeps me hugely involved. It allows me to use my creativity and knowledge to its best ability. and it won't get stale. And at the end of it, I'll just move on to the next company. So to me, it's a perfect scenario.
Do you kind of do programs, or do you come in as a consultant?
No, my signature program is a 16-week coaching program, which is hugely expensive these days. So I'm not trying to tout it here, where I have a one-to-one 1 hour Skype every week for 16 weeks. And I give them workbooks to fill in, and really take them from kitchen sink right through to international distribution. So through all the concept building, product design, route to market, costings, all those sort of things. And it's wonderful because I've watched some of my clients build £1 million businesses or multi-million pound business. Not everybody does it. It's up to the entrepreneur. But for me, to be able to share their journey at that level, and I only take on now, I'll only take on about 8 people a year, because it takes a lot out of me, and I just don't want to get that intensely involved. So I'm actually in this incredibly interesting position of choosing my clients as opposed to having to sell my skills. But I think this happens when you do something really well.
Absolutely.
And when you're really visible with it.
You've already, when we did our Instagram live the other day, albeit only it was cut short, you made a big impact on some people, and 2 people the next day, their posts were inspired by our chat and by you. And the fact that, the answer is say yes and we find the solution, and that, and you can be fabulous at any age, as in fabulously successful and happy at any age, that kind of thing. Because I'm a very big champion of women, life doesn't stop over 50. So that kind of thing. So, you have already inspired people just from the other day. So I know you're going to inspire loads of people from this one. But you already actually made an impact on me. You said something the other day, and it's really, really boosted my confidence. And you told me that I was charging not enough for my Instagram courses. And you know what? I've been thinking about that and thinking about all what I give. And I really resonate with what you're saying, is because when my Jeep business went a bit tits up last year, and indeed again this year, I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I had to look at what I could do, my experience, my knowledge, what I was good at, what I enjoyed. And that's how, and I had a business, a coach actually, and it was she that inspired me to do the coaching. So I get that you use your experience to do something, to create something else. But I love the fact that you said to me that I'm not charging enough. And if you say that, then that's good enough for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm putting my prices up.
All right, let me just qualify that. I think, there's a lot of people out there that are bad coaches and shouldn't be charging anything. I don't think that because you can do something, I think you need, I'm making assumptions here that you've done the groundwork, that no, this isn't personally at you, but this is general, that you really know your stuff before you start coaching, trying to teach anybody anything, because you're not doing anyone any favors unless you do. And if you don't believe you know your stuff, nobody else is going to. But that brings you to the point of price, because you also have to know your value.
Yeah.
Now, I charge a lot of money because what I do is not, there's not that many people that can do it. Whereas with social media and all these other soft skills, it's harder. But the point is that if you believe in yourself and you charge what you think, you charge what you think you're worth. So if you come out on something charging less than everybody else, thinking that because you're charging less, you're going to get a bigger audience, I'm here to tell you that that's absolutely not the case, because people want to go to somebody that knows their stuff and that's going to be good. So they're going to judge your value to some degree by what you charge. And
I agree. It's something about being reassuringly expensive as well.
You've got to be able to back that up. I don't want to send all these people putting their prices. You've got to be able to back that up with real skill. But that aside, I'm assuming you wouldn't do this unless you thought you had the skill. And that aside, then you need to be charging a real price for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it was very much, in the early days, there was that imposter syndrome. A lot of people have
Of course.
imposter syndrome. And it is about believing in yourself. And if you believe it and you say it, I mean, I say to my clients a lot of time, because I kind of coach them on confidence. Even though my courses are called How to Have Fun with Instagram, it is about the confidence. And I say to them, using that sort of the Dorothy quote from, Wizard of Oz, click your heels, because you had it all the time. You've always had that confidence. You just got to click those heels and believe in it. And you too can fly to canvas.
That's absolutely what it's about. Absolutely what it's about. But I must say, I mentioned in passing that I'd done a coaching course, and what happened there was I was sitting in France. I'd sold the business. I'd blown all my money on the house. I live in an old farmhouse that eats money. So, and I'm not a saver. I don't believe in saving. So I'd blown all and I was sitting there thinking, well, what the hell am I going to do next? What am I going to do? And I was doing a bit of consultancy for which I was undercharging, and I suddenly saw a friend of mine everywhere. She was a woman who'd been on a course with me to learn soap making, and she was suddenly everywhere, and she was saying she was a business coach, and there were these beautiful pictures of her every time I turn up. And I contacted her and said, tell me the story, what's going on? And she said she'd been on this course, she'd signed up to this coaching program with this woman in the States. And it was, at that time, I think it was $7,500. I'm going back about 5 years. And you had to be prepared to go to Sydney, Los Angeles, Florida, and Paris, and stay in five-star hotels at your own expense, and attend these events. And there were 200 women in this coaching program. And I'd never been coached. And again, it's about instinct and antenna, and something told me that I needed to do this. So I put the whole lot on a credit card, and within a couple of months, I'd had that back and double.
Wow.
The return. Because, and this is another point, it was a lot of money for me to spend on a coaching program at that time. And my thinking was, well, having spent it, I'm damn well going to get everything I can out of it. Yeah. And that's another reason to charge a fair amount, because if somebody makes that sort of commitment to you, they have far more. It all sounds like horribly salesy, but what I've found is they have far more chance of making it successful because they're showing commitment to it.
Well, and it's also accountability, isn't it, as well? When you get something free, you're not going to really turn up all the time, but when you paid good money for it, that and it's not painful, but you're aware of it, it makes you accountable. And I'm always sort of believing in people that they need to invest in themselves, whether it is know how to technically do something, whether it's Instagram or whatever, or having that confidence to do it. But we are worth it, as the Laurel ads would say. We're worth it. Yeah, it's worth the investment.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
That's what you just give me another idea for a business idea. Actually, I could do Instagram coaching in my gîtes in the south of France. So they have to pay to come stay in my gîtes, and they get me.
Absolutely.
Melinda, you might have to come and do a guest performance, I think.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I can persuade you further south, I'm sure. So tell us about your book that's recently launched.
Okay, so as you've probably guessed by now, I'm the queen of pivot, and I pivot because I get bored. I pivot because I want to try something I haven't tried. I want to push myself. I want to challenge myself. And I kind of decided I've also had to change my persona over the years because I've got older, and I'm competing. Most of my clients are probably in their 30s. And I'm competing with, kids that grew up with phones with them as nappy accessories, and I've had to learn all this stuff. So I decided that it was time that I owned my age. And particularly with, I'd actually joined a group of 60s. That's how it started. I got myself involved with a group of memories of the 60s when COVID first set up, which took me back to a lot of people that I knew in my teens. And, you know, so many older people, they, especially women, but not just women, they feel invisible. As they get past 50, they think that they haven't, you know, that they can't start something new. Or they think that nobody will take them seriously. I mean, there's so many hang-ups around getting older.
But also, you know, your hormones change, and your life has changed, your children have grown up or what have you, you've lost confidence as well.
But actually, that's because your children have grown up, because you've had all these life experiences, be they professional or personal. This is absolutely, and because we have the internet, which I didn't have through any of my businesses,
No.
you know, we can reach 4.6 billion people online. So if you've managed to live with tinnitus, you know, and you could do a program showing people coping mechanisms for tinnitus at the loosest part. How many people do you think of those 4.6 billion that you can reach have that problem and would pay to have someone help them with it? How many people, we've got the leisure industries, you know, flower arranging, cooking, you know, all these soft feminine, I'm being very kind here, but on top of that, you know, if you've been in a profession and you were a great, if supposing you worked for a dress manufacturer and you had you made contacts, or you made press contacts, or manufacturing, anything that you've done, you can put in a package, and you can market it online and find your audience. And that means that you can work from wherever you like, whenever you like, online. And, you know, I'm watching the news and listening about how 50s people are getting knocked out the job market. Well, why on earth would anyone in their 50s or over want a job? You know, why would they want a boss? We've got all these tools just sitting here.
Absolutely. We're our own boss babes.
Yeah, so this is my book, and it's only a little book. That's me sitting on a pile of money at the front.
Oh, nice.
And on this book, it's very lighthearted. I hope it's quite funny, but it does get people to take a look at themselves. And it also gives all the basic tools for discovering what you have that you can market and how you can do it in the easiest possible way, because I know there is a resistance to being online and learning all the certainly is in me. I just pay someone else to do it, the things that I can't do. I mean, that's the other thing that you have to do.
Know your strength. It's all
absolutely. But yeah, so that's my latest. I'm still doing my skincare mentoring, very much so. In fact, I've never been busier, but I just wanted to do this because I really think there's a need for it, and because my own experience tells me that, you know, I started 3 businesses from my 50s, and 2 from my 60s. So and now I'm 72, and I'm wondering what to do when I grow up. But
I'm the same. I've never known what I want to be when I grow up, and I still don't. And
but the opportunities, the trouble is, if you've grown up with all this stuff, you do not realize what a golden gift online is. I mean, you know, we used to have to rent shops, we used to have to pay full-time staff, we used to have to carry stock. All that's gone. You can, with a really, really low budget, set yourself up in some kind of business.
I'm going to just throw something at you there, though. I mean, I asked you this question the other day. Do you think it was easier in those days? And you quite rightly said, well, now it's easier because you've got the internet, you've got so much. But equally, because it is so easy to set up a business and go online just like that, there's that much more competition.
But there's that much bigger audience. I mean, just think about it. In those days, without the internet, how small you've got to be better than everybody else. Well,
Yeah.
you know, we all know that I mean, I'm not talking about get rich quick schemes here in any measure. Again, you've got to be committed, and you're going to have to learn a few things, and you're going to have to be visible. You're going to have to put, which is where your work comes in. You're going to have to put yourself out there, and you've got to be better than anyone else. But what in life is different? You know, in everything that we do, we need to value what we are, we need to be the best at what we are, and we need to go out there and take action. And most
you kind of said, you just sent shivers down my spine. I just know that people watching this are going to feel exactly the same. I've literally got shivers down my spine. I totally resonate with everything you say. And I also believe in surrounding myself with people, like-minded people. That's one of the reasons why I love doing my group courses. I have Facebook groups because you surround yourself with those kind of people, and strong women raise strong women. We lift each other up, don't we? And we rise, we look after each other, and I think you surround yourself by brilliance and you become brilliant as well. So
I mean, to me, the greatest part of what I do is the feedback that I get from people that I've really helped. You know, I'm not interested in money. I mean, if I've got it or I haven't got it, it really doesn't interest me. And when you get older, again, the mortgage is often paid off. The kids have left home. This is the time that you're freed up to do this stuff, to really discover who you are and to get out there and what you're capable of, and get out there and do it. And
you tell us all about that in your book, Age is Your Business. How do we buy that?
Amazon is probably the easiest way. All good bookshops, you can order it, but Amazon is probably the easiest way. And if you do get it and you like it, I mean, I'm also on the back of this going to offer a program where I actually hold people's hands, a group program where I hold people's hands through the process. If they read the book and they get inspired by it, there's a website link they can go, and it's not ready yet, but there's a website link where they can go and look at that. But I would really be interested if you left reviews for me. You know, I would really like to know whether it triggered anything in you. That's why I've written it. I want it to trigger. I don't want to hear people telling me that they can't earn a living and that whinge. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I get it. I love it. I live by it, and I am buying your book, and I will read a review. And I suspect, so hopefully you'll get a load more sales from after this. I know that's not why we did this, by the way. I'm the one that wanted just to talk to you selfishly, because I feel really inspired by people like you. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what you're going to do next as well. So I'm going to keep in touch with you, Linda. And I wanted to say, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. You know, we didn't know each other a week ago, and now I've met you 3 times, albeit on the net. Wouldn't have done that in the old days. And it's been a privilege and an honour to talk to you.
Honor. Thank you, Honor.
But thank you. I'll let you press stop in a second, but I want to say thank you again. And yeah, go buy that book, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everyone.